Sanibona, ngaphambi singene kwivideo namuhla, ngithi angithathe lethuba ngibonge isupport nothando nesikhombise lona lingaphezu kokucabanga kwethu. Siyacela niqhubeke nisupporte njalo ngokubuka amavideo ethu, ungakhohlwa ukukhomenta, ushare, ulike. Siyafisa ukuzwa umbono wakho. Sicela ke singene kwivideo namuhla. Ngo-2021 kwaba khona iJuly unrest lapho khona abantu baveza ukudinwa nolaka lwabo ngodaba lika Jacob Zuma ukuthi aboshwe without trial. Sizokukhumbula nje isigameko esenzeka lapho, kodwa into yagcina ekhulunywa ekugcineni kwathi iSouth Africa ayinayo crime intelligence wayengakwazanga ukuyibona lento before yenzeka. Ngesikhathi ayethula ubufakazi bakhe lapha ku-ad hoc committee uGeneral Mkhwanazi waphawula kanje:
There is other disasters that are coming. When you look at the level of unemployment, especially on the youth in this country, the way it's escalating, it's a disaster in waiting. So when that pipe bursts, we might come back and say we have no intelligence, and yet there's warnings that are coming. So it becomes a question then of then saying there was no intelligence when 2021 happened.
Uthinta udaba sensitive kakhulu uGeneral Mkhwanazi nokuyilona elibalulekile. Futhi uyasho ukuthi luyi-ticking time bomb. Njengoba labantu abasha bengasebenzi, ama-frustrations wabo la bezowakhipha khona akekho walawula. And uyasho ukuthi akhona ama-warnings, kodwa uhulumeni wethu akawanaki. Ayikho-ke into ebuhlungu njengokubukela i-Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training. Labantu ababona aba-responsible for ukuthi kutrainwe abantu babe nama-skills ukuze bezokwazi ukuqasheka. Uthothi kunezinto abangazenzi kahle. Kule video manje ngizokucaphunela into ezikhulunywe lapha eParliament mayelana nje nodaba luthinta amasitha, ngoba iwona funeka train abantu babe nama-skills. Sizokhuluma ngalolo daba, kodwa ngaphambi singene kulelo daba, uVuyo Zungula we-ATM ngesikhathi ekhuluma eParliament uphawule kanje yena:
African Transformation Movement. I think you have forgotten the full name of the party. Okay.
On behalf of ATM, I rise to call for poverty and unemployment to be declared a national disaster. Over 12 million South Africans are unemployed. That's more than a quarter of our working age population. 55% live below the poverty line. 2 in 3 children grow up in households where basic needs are not met. These are not statistics. They are stories of daily suffering and lost dignity. The Constitution guarantees the right to dignity, education, housing, healthcare, and freedom from hunger. When poverty and unemployment strip away these rights, the state has got a constitutional duty to act with urgency. Declaring this crisis a national disaster is not symbolic. It would enable coordinated national action, reprioritize budgets, fast-track job creation and infrastructure programs, and hold government accountable under a measurable framework. Just as we mobilize extraordinary measures during COVID-19, we must now do the same to confront this pandemic of poverty and joblessness that is destroying more lives each day. The ATM calls for decisive action. Let us treat unemployment and poverty with the urgency they demand. I so move. Thank you.
Thank you.
Manje abaphethe bengamlalela uVuyo Zungula, lenkinga nale disaster uMkhwanazi ade ekhuluma ngayo izogwemeka ukuthi bathathe lento unemployment bayibeke as disaster, kuzwe namasu kubonakala ukuthi kwenziwa kanjani ukuze inqandeke. Kodwa ngoba there is no political will, kuzoqhubeka kube nje kuze konakala izinto. Athi sidlulele eParliament sizwe ukuthi khona kuthiweni.
The honorable members.
House Chairperson, committing fraud and a statutory offence under Section 26 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act 4 of 2004 is not only a spit on the graves of the forefathers of this democracy, but is a spit in the faces of this and future generations of young people who depend on well-functioning SETAs for skills development. Skills that are for most their only shot at fairly competing for jobs in this constrained economy. A job, if secured, is their only shot at putting food on the table, clothes on their backs, a roof over their heads, and dignity for themselves and their families. It is a spit in the faces of the dedicated D-head staff and whistleblowers who wake up every day and go to work to make this republic work. An act of service which, for those who dare oppose being used as corruption pawns, comes at a great risk. The risk of unemployment, poverty, and the forced abandonment of their children's future. Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane and the ANC sacrificed this staff, young people, and the Republic of South Africa at the altar of their self-indulgence, the protection of a network of patronage, and the revolution's favorite elites, cadres. The appointment of failed ANC politicians, cadres, their children, and spouses as chairpersons of SETA boards was not a mistake. Dr. Nkabane and the ANC orchestrated these appointments deliberately with the sole aim of milking the state dry, which quite frankly is the people of this republic's money. These appointments followed a culture that has become primary nature for the ANC. Looting, deceit, fraud, and treating the people of this country as fools. See, integrity and financial purity are foreign concepts to the once upon a time liberation movement. And so the DA's fight against these appointments was a declaration of war against anyone and everyone who thinks the criminal and political capture of the state's bureaucracy is normal. It is not normal. It is disgusting, it is anti-democratic, and it is simply not welcome, and certainly not under my watch. We celebrate the firing of Dr. Nkabane and look forward to the outcomes of the Hawks investigation into the case the DA laid against her. But this didn't change much. Instead, her successor, Minister Buti Manamela, took right where she left off. At his first opportunity to do and be better, he appointed even more shady and compromised cadres as administrators of the LG SETA, the construction SETA, and the services SETA, some of the worst performing SETAs in this department. He appointed Ndate Upangwane, a former municipal manager at the Mfuleni local municipality, who's implicated in a comparative forensic report that details the mismanagement of 872 million rands of this country's money. Mr. Leshogonolo Masoga, a former ANC Limpopo MEC and deputy speaker, who is implicated in a Mara forensic report for backdating a communications contract worth 4.4 million rands as the CEO of the Messina Mercado Special Economic Zone. Former Deputy Director General responsible for skills development in the Department of Higher Education since 2017. A man who oversaw the destruction and collapse of 21 SETAs for the past 8 years. 8 years of damning AG reports after report, SIU investigations, forensic reports that detail acts of corruption, fraud, and the mismanagement of public funds. See, but the real elephant in the room remains. The current National Skills Authority is the same NSA that approved Minister Nkabane's previous SETA board chairpersons of ANC cadres. They saw nothing wrong with the appointment of Gweda Matasha's son and others as SETA board chairpersons, which combined oversee 20 billion rands that belongs to this country's taxpayers. The same NSA now approved Manamela's new batch of cadres, and all of these red flags are simply overlooked. Now, how can we, in all honesty, tell the people of this country that there's nothing wrong with Minister Manamela and Honorable Nkamare's NSA? We can't cry the beloved country. Our democracy is under attack.
Ngifuna ukuphawula kakhulu mina ngizophawula ekugcineni kodwa ngicaphunela izinto ezibalekile ezikhulunyiwe. Nanokuthi wazi ukuthi inkinga ikuphi. Uhulumeni we-ANC zintathu into azenzile ku-youth ase-South Africa. Youth ase-South Africa uneducated, unemployed and unemployable ngoba ayinama skills. Kunalokho basafaka ama-cadres ukuze baqhubeke nokulutha imali ye-state. Into eyenzekayo, asiphinde siqhubeke.
Thanks, Chair. House Chairperson, I do not know what the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee was saying before this House. Ngimangele kakhulu kabi. Let me greet the people of South Africa. Emva kokuba sibona imhlolo yafika emehlweni ethu ngomhla ka-13 May ngokuphuthuma sabhalela usihlalo we-Portfolio Committee sifuna izimpendulo kungqongqoshe wangaleso sikhathi uDr Nkabane. Sasingafuni kuphela izimpendulo kodwa sasifuna ukucacisa futhi ukuthi asihambisani nensambatheka esasiyibona uma yayiqiniswa ngaleso sikhathi. Upon us vehemently rejecting the SITA chairperson's list, which were filled with ANC aligned individuals, including the son of Gwede Mantashe, and it must be noted that the minister, Dr. Nkabane, once served as the deputy minister of Mr. Mantashe before assuming the position of the Minister of Higher Education and Training. Amongst more than 200 qualified candidates, it is no coincidence that Umntana kaMnumzana Mantashe was selected amongst 20 other questionable individuals, 90% of whom are known failed leaders of the ANC. This risks the political nepotism and cadre deployment at the expense of deserving young South Africans. As Umkhonto Party, we remain firm that the sector education and training authorities are no playground for children of ministers or relatives of the comrades. By the way, these are not amaplas lana awu babu Mantashe abadlala kuwama quad bikes nengane zabo babathembisa bethi mntanami you can be a chairperson. These institutions carry a critical mandate to skill up, skill, transform the lives and the hopeless and unemployed people across this country. Former Minister Dr. Nkabane deliberately misled and lied to the Portfolio Committee and by extension Parliament. She failed to demonstrate transparency when she refused to explain the process she used to headhunt and to assemble the so-called credible panel, and that shortlisted and recommended the ANC-aligned individuals, many of whom have corrupt clouds hanging over their heads. Some of those appointed did not even meet the minimum requirements nor the experience required. Her failure to appoint SITA board chairpersons has plunged governance into chaos. Out of the 21 sitters, several remain without fully appointed CEOs, despite candidates having passed all required legislative stages. As if that crisis is not enough, Mr. Manamela, the new minister, on his very first assignment, unprovokedly placed 3 larger sitters under administration. The legislation he claims to have invoked contradicts the conditions which were actually presented. Through the Portfolio Committee, we have formally requested details of the process he followed to put these sitters under administration, including the resolution and recommendation from the National Skills Authority, which is legally mandated to advise the minister. More than 30 days later, still no response from the new minister. We also requested clarity on the selection process of the appointed administrators, 2 of whom are deeply compromised. One is implicated, as the latter member has indicated, in an almost 900 million financial mismanagement forensic investigation, while the other oversaw all 21 sitters and failed dismally. Yet the new minister saw it fit to entrust him to even a greater power of overseeing single-handedly one of the sitters. The minister has alternatively had an alternative and a more responsible option to appoint boards chairpersons across all sitters, restore governance, enforce consequence management, and prioritize appointment of the new CEOs. Instead, the end of September, the contracts of 20 sitter CEOs had lapsed, deepening the leadership and administrative vacuum. Meanwhile, the department itself is in severe decline. It has failed to meet nearly 70% of its performance targets. It has underspent 5 billion worth of skills development. It has underspent billions more in infrastructure development. It has a director general that is implicated in fraud and corruption charges, or rather fraud and corruption allegations since last year, November, till to date. The former minister and the current minister has done nothing about it.
Member, your time is now expired.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Yabona uSisu Karabo Kakao we-DA ukhuluma into ecishe ifane neshow umsezana we-MKP, okusho ukuthi ngempela inkinga sisenayo futhi inkulu kunalokho esikucabangayo thina, ngoba labantu ofanele ngabe beza nesixazululo ukuze i-unemployment rate izokwehla, yibona abayingxenye ye-problem. Nayo-ke inkinga enkulu esibhekene nayo. Uzowakhumbula amazwi kaGeneral Mkhwanazi utheni, uthe i-disaster enyezayo yile ye-unemployment kwi-youth, and la qubuka khona kuyobe sekuthiwa i-intelligence ayikho kanti ama-warning akhona. Wakhuluma uVuyozungu wathi no ayithathe njenge-state of emergency le ndaba ye-unemployment ukuze kuzokwazi ukuthi i-government ilwisane nale simo. Manje mawulalele bese uzwa kuthiwa uminister ubuti Manamela uphinde waqasha abantu aba-implicated kwi-corruption. Ushuthi ikhona into ezokwenzeka ibe ngcono. Ngicela ukucaphunela ivideo yokugcina bese siyayivala le video kodwa ngiyafisa ukuzwa ukuphawula kwakho.
Chair, I also agree with the Honourable. Really, we can't. It's disheartening to spend the whole day speaking to people that don't appoint themselves. We want the minister, we want the DG, and we want the department. Let me start with the DDG acting skills. DDG acting skills. Do you know the process of appointing CEOs in the SITAs?
We can answer, Dr. Mabusa.
Yes, precisely.
No. Press the button.
Yes, precisely.
Are you aware that there were CEOs in SITAs that have been appointed recently for a period of 5 years?
Yes, in terms of the act, they were.
Did they follow that process?
The regulation does provide for that.
What is
The appointment of
maybe
sitters.
take me through the regulation. I'm looking at it. I assume you also know it. So what must happen when, let's say, manufacturing and engineering SITA wants to appoint a CEO? What maybe take the South Africans through the process?
Precisely what happens is that if the period of the AA ends, automatically the period of the CEO must end. But then there are other intricacies that are involved there. One of them is the one that you are raising, to say there's a regulation that grants the minister the right then to appoint, or to appoint, let me put it that way, to further appoint a CEO who has proven to perform very well organizationally and in terms of all the requirements that are there. If I may assist with regards to that, I'm not quite forgotten the number of the regulation, but if you simply go to appointment of SITA CEOs, it will take you straight to that regulation.
The regulation says there must be a recruitment process. And then the accounting authority must recommend 3 names to the minister. But that doesn't mean there must not be a recruitment process. Do you agree with me, DTG?
Not fully. It states that as far as the incoming new accounting authority goes, because their first engagement now is then to set into process the process that we're talking about. However, the other part that is there simply provides for the AA that is incoming to make a recommendation to the minister whether they want to extend the existing CEO or not.
Okay, let me do it this way. Which day were the new accounting authorities appointed by the minister?
That should be before the year term ended, 30th of September.
And then when did they recommend the appointment of the CEOs, extend their contracts?
If I may, you through chair, and through you, Honorable Lonzi, there are 2 processes there, the substantive process as well as the procedural process. The substantive process is that you had AA that had a task to perform of sitting, convening, and then thereafter take a decision and transmit that decision to the minister. Now, they did that within the period that is prescribed. Now, as to the procedural part thereof now to say when did the minister then sign off the recommendation, it is another matter. But then the key thing is that the incoming accounting authority set before the expiry of the time of the CEOs.
DDG, the accounting authorities are new, we agree.
Sure.
They are just appointed now.
Yes.
And then these accounting authorities then make a recommendation to the minister, probably not having even set more than one or two meetings at most, to say that we want to appoint this CEO for an additional period of 5 years. There was no recruitment process, there was no advert, there was no shortlisting process, there was no selection committee, but 3 names. In fact, even worse, in some of them, they only recommended one name, and the minister then appointed those people as CEO for a period of 5 years.
No, that's why, Honorable Lonzi, I'm creating these 3 parts so that you may understand how the process went by. The minister actually issued a first memo to the AAs, which was not interpreted correctly. But then a second one, which was explaining exactly what is supposed to happen. This is what I'm explaining, to say the contract ended. And now, but in terms of legislation, the incoming AAs did have the latitude then to then recommend the reappointment of sitters who had performed. That is in terms of the Act. But in the instance where there is no recommendation, they were then to submit names. And the recommendation.
DDG, can I read this? Can I read this to you? The minister is responsible to appoint a CEO for respective sitter based on the 3 names recommended by the accounting authority in accordance with this constitution. 2, the accounting authority of a respective sitter must, I'm not sure about the parts you are telling me, that's a very operative word, must. A, follow a recruitment process. B, place a national advertisement to invite candidates to apply for the position. C, have a shortlisting process by which selected candidates can be interviewed. D, have a selection committee to select candidates to be interviewed. And E, which is what we are talking about, make a recommendation of 3 suitable candidates from which any one can be appointed by the minister after consultation with the cabinet and irrespective of the placement of a name in the list. Are you aware of what I'm reading here?
Yeah, that holds, but only as far as when the AA has not recommended the extension of the current CEO for another 5-year term. That then
which section here speaks about giving the AA powers to extend the term of a CEO for an additional 5 years without following this process that I've read out from you, that is in the Act.
That's the regulation. That's the regulation of the Act.
Which one is it? So that I can go to it.
Yeah, it's the one that I'm saying. I've just forgotten the number. But if you can simply scroll.
I'm scrolling here. I can't see it.
You will find it.
I'm scrolling here. I can't find it.
But it's certainly there.
So you agree with me? So maybe let's establish this. That's why we need the minister here, because you are saying this. So you are telling me there's some other section that you forgot. So in a way, you agree with me that this process I'm reading out to you now was not followed. A separate process was followed.
No, I'm not forgetting a section. I'm just forgetting the number of the regulation.
Okay, let me make it easier step by step. The accounting authority of a respective sitter must follow a recruitment process. Was a recruitment process followed in the appointment of these current CEOs?
Honorable Lonzi, that's why I'm saying to you, there are new AAs that are incoming. This is precisely the process that they must follow. In the instance,
I'm talking about the CEOs that have now been appointed for an additional 5 years. I'm asking a very straightforward question. Was a recruitment process followed?
It couldn't be followed.
Okay, so the recruitment process was not followed.
For the extension, because there's a regulation.
That's fine. There was no national advert to invite candidates to apply for the position. Was there? I assume there wasn't, was it?
There will be an advert that will invite CEOs.
Was there a national advert to invite candidates for the current positions of the CEOs which have now been appointed for an additional 5 years? Is there such an advert?
It's still coming.
So these ones who have been appointed for 5 years, there was no advert for their appointment.
It's an extension in terms of the regulation.
So their extension, there was no advert.
It doesn't need an advert. It simply needs.
There was no shortlisting process.
Performance.
Well, you're telling me about a legislation that you can't even tell me.
Yeah, let's do this. The question there is that I want you to clarify. There was no advert. You are saying it's still coming.
For those that were not extended. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, the question was, there are other CEOs who have been extended. So he's asking for those, or about those. So these ones were extended. That's where the questions are. He's saying there was no advert. Just answer, yes, there was no advert. Because if you are saying it's still coming, then that's where, because you almost lost me now. That it's still coming for what?
No, I think we're not on the same page with.
Yeah, let's be on the same page.
No, I
Honorable Lonzi,
through
what
you,
I'm
Chair,
s-
if I can just interject. DDG, I don't want to, I think I'll spend my whole 20 minutes on this question. Can you take us to the regulation that allows for an extension of 5 years in the Skills Development Act? I'm willing to waste my time and wait for you to research for
Yeah,
it.
if you can allow me to do that, I will do it.
There are other members of the department, I'm sure they can fast track this process.
Yeah, maybe in the meantime, ask the team to help you get it, whereas he continues with other questions. Is it possible that that you can ask somebody that the Kuza next to you, because he's the head of NSA, he should have it. Get it for him, and whilst we continue with other questions.
And
No, it's okay, Chair, but the fact of the matter, Chair, that regulation is there, and that's the regulation that informed.
I think the DDG should just share
minister
the
to
regulation.
No, it's okay.
In that regard.
Yeah.
No, let's do this.
I mean, we're not talking about a decision that was taken 10 years ago. We're talking about a decision that was taken now. In fact, it should be in your emails. Because the letter that the minister would have sent to the AAs would have quoted that particular regulations. So the DDG should just open his emails and check it. It shouldn't take that long. Now we're saying, please take us to that particular section.
You see, Chair, that the regulation that I'm referring to,
And please read it for us.
no, he's actually given me a memo here, but I'm relating to a regulation.
Yeah, can it be found, the regulation?
Yes,
I've tried to find.
that's what I
I'll
wanted
tell you
to
what
do.
I know. I'll tell you what I've read in the Act. I know that there can be an appointment of an acting CEO for a period of 6 months.
That's true.
That's what I know. That's what I've read. I can point to it. I can take you to it. You are saying to me and this parliament that a CEO who has served their term can be reappointed for a period of 5 years without a recruitment process, without an advert, without a shortlisting process, without a selection committee, and the name can simply be recommended to the minister. Now, I've read the process as far as the SDA is concerned. And I've got a lot of other work that I do. This is your only work. You don't have to worry about T-shirts like me. You should know the regulations off the top of your head. I am reading to you the Skills Development Act, and I am saying to you, please take me to the regulation that allows the minister to appoint a CEO for 5 years additional on top of their term, without an advert, without a recruitment process, without a selection committee, without shortlisting process. I'm willing to wait. In fact, I don't even want to go to other questions, Chair. I can give the next MP.
Cela ukuzukuphawula kwakho la comment section. Ngizwe ukuthi wena ubona kanjani kulo lonke lolu daba oxoxwa ngalo. Kodwa mina ngokubona kwami ngibona iANC lento unemployment iyenza ngamabomu futhi ivumela ngamabomu. Nabantu futhi abaqashwe lapha abaqashwanga ngoba bewazi umsebenzi. Baqashwe ngoba benekhadi noma be-connected nabantu abathize. Sihle lonze ubuza umbuzo odinga impendulo. Udinga nje impendulo. Kodwa-ke uyabamba uyayeka uyabamba nominister afuna abuye azoziphendulela ukuthi kahle kahle okwenzakalayo yini. Kodwa mina ngizibuza ukuthi soyitolerate lento njengabantu base-South Africa kuze kube nini? Yilowo nje umbuzo wami. Angisho ukuthi khona efuneka sikwenze kodwa nje sizoyitolerate lento kuze kube nini. Uma mhlambe engathola impendulo lapho kungangconywana. Ukwazi ukuthi le nkinga engaka esihlasele la eSouth Africa sizoyitolerate kuze kube nini ngoba ibonakala inkinga yamabomu. Ibonakala inkinga ekhande iANC ngamabomu.